Now we're going to have some fun and mix things up a little bit. We have 3 people coming up to the stage, all of whom you know very, very well. If you've ever been to a Tea Party rally, a Tea Party meeting, a Tea Party anything, Sylvia Smith is there. And she is shouting out, and she is supportive, and she is such a hard worker. We really, really appreciate her. Sylvia is being joined by the gentleman that you heard from earlier, Jeff Chittister, who is very well known to all of us with his New Hampshire perspectives on the radio and, of course, his regular weekly column as the voice of conservatism at the Portsmouth Herald. So those of you who read that column, I'm sure, are big fans. And, of course, we welcome Skip Murphy, who is known to all of us for being the founder of the Granite Grok and all of the work that these fellows are doing on behalf of conservatism. I only have one mic here. Okay, you want me to start? Our subject today, which these 3 learned speakers are going to talk about, is the state of the media today and how this relates to the Fifth Estate. And I think we have 2 microphones, so you're going to share. So go ahead, Sylvia.
Okay. In 2006, I was teaching health journalism in Mongolia to mid-level journalists, and I was asked through the interpreter what we do here when a reporter accepts a bribe. I really was taken aback because I don't think that happens here very often. But then I came back to the country and was at an event in D.C. where we had 1.8 million people at a Tea Party rally, and the New York Times was reporting we had several thousand people there. So I think we have a worse problem. We have a news blackout. And our hope, at least through the Tea Party, many of the foreign press have embedded in the buses coming from different locations, and the foreign press actually was more respectful reporting about our Tea Party movement than our own press, who largely ignored it. So we have moved on to the Fifth Estate. Some of you may know about InfoWars with Alex Jones. He's a very controversial character, but his reporters, his guerrilla journalists, as they call them, do show up at places like the Bundy Ranch and report. And also Cheryl Atkinson, a very fine journalist. We're losing a lot of fine journalists. They're just fed up and they're getting out. But she had a number of her stories pulled on. She would get close to Benghazi and then the story would be pulled. She now has you can go to CherylAtkinson.com and see wonderful articles like how the Arab Spring opened doors to terrorism's ugly march. And also there's a fabulous article there from the Columbia Journalism Review on what went wrong with the reporting on the article about the alleged rape at the University of Virginia. It's a classic study in how journalism failed and is failing us more and more. So people are turning to the Fifth Estate, which I think is a good thing, and we get more accurate reporting in some cases.
And I think the key is, and Skip will probably talk about this as well, accurate in reporting. How many of you get your news from the New York Times? I'm shocked. And the reason why is that when we look at how they report, the first thing is we have reporters here too, and they're going to disagree with some of the things I'm going to say here. People ask me all the time, well, Jeff, aren't you part of the media? Yeah, I am. I am part of the media. But guess what? You know exactly where I stand when I walk into that studio, and I hold myself to a high degree of accountability, as does Skip. When you think about what we're trying to do in this medium that journalism has kind of abandoned. The first thing is that a lot of times when we talk about journalists, yesterday afternoon, I gave a quote to CNN. Did any of you see me on CNN? No, you didn't see me on CNN. And the reason why is this was the quote. Why do you keep referring to this as a cattle call? New Hampshire doesn't do cattle calls. The fact that we happen to have all these people here at the same time to mean nothing more than they are invited to attend it. But what does cattle call infer? Negativity. And that's really what journalism has turned into. In fact, they took the cattle call and they quoted it, and I asked the CNN reporter, where did that quote come from? You quoted it. Who quoted it? And she couldn't tell me. So that's what journalism has turned into, and it makes us very suspect. How many of you heard how bad Congress is doing? What's their approval rating? 7%. Okay, so now you ready for this? Here's the game. And the media loves doing that, right? What percentage of the United States of America believes that the journalism in this country is absolutely honest? What percent? Full percent believe that you can trust the journalist in this country 100%. What do you think it is? 6%, same as Congress. So amazing how don't look at the shiny thing over here, look at the shiny thing over here. And that's what they try to do. But the other thing about that factor is, you ready for this? And Congressman King can attribute to this. Someone, please tell me, name a congressperson right now with a 6% approval rating. An individual congressman with an individual rating of 6%. The lowest I could find was 28%. So what's that tell you about journalism? The reality is they go to the quick story, the easy story, and they kind of go back to that old mantra of if it bleeds, it leads. But the problem is they're the ones making it bleed. They're the ones taking the stick out and pounding people and go, oh, look, a cattle call. Why do we tolerate that? So when we think about journalism today and we think about what's going on, it goes back to the thing that I used to say all the time. If you're not in the room, you're on the menu. You know what I mean by that? If we don't go to places, if we don't make our presence known, if we don't write letters to the editor, if we don't write comments on fictitious and false stories and hold people accountable, then we're on the menu. They get to say whatever they want about anybody, and they go unchallenged. And that's how you return media back and journalism back to where it needs to be. By us being in the room and not on the menu and holding them accountable. One last thing before I introduce you to Skip is Congressman King is still here. How many of you have seen Congressman King on TV before? Excellent. Now, how many of you have seen... That's just to wake you up for lunch. We didn't bring our guitars either. We should have brought it with us.
You don't want me playing guitar.
Now, how many of you have ever seen... How many of you watch MSNBC? All right, so once again, you're not in the room, so you're on the menu. You got to watch MSNBC, and I'll tell you about that in a bit. But they trashed this individual. And it's frustrating for me because the thing is many of the people in this room have been in the car with people like Congressman King or been in the car with Michelle Bachmann and been in the car with some of these people, and they trash them, and we just let them go unanswered. Everything I said about Congressman King is absolutely true. Everything that I believed about Michelle Bachmann was absolutely true. Everything that I believe about Ted Cruz, who has appeared before the Supreme Court 9 times. Do you know that? No, some of you do because you did your homework. Media's not going to tell you that. Why don't they want to tell you that? Oh, my God. Guys appeared before the Supreme Court 9 times. He must have something going for him. And that's the thing. We have to hold people accountable if we want journalism back. When doctors do a terrible job, we hold them accountable. When policemen do a terrible job, we hold them accountable. When politicians do a terrible job, we hold them accountable. It's time to hold the journalist accountable, too. Yep.
As those of you who have read Granite Rock, I have a very hard time writing short. I get accused of asking questions and speaking long. So on the way down from the Lakes region this morning, I told myself I needed to be able to summarize all of this in one sentence. And I came up with this. Leftist social justice warriors are masquerading as journalists, but they all have Democrat bylines. Now, I can't take credit for the Democrat bylines because that's something from Glenn Reynolds at Instapundit. But I will tell you, when I grew up, going through school when school was good, what was journalism? What was good English in telling a story? Who, what, when, why, where? Something else. Can't remember. Thank you. Instead, we have now seen journalism morph into the narrative. Best example is what we've seen at West Virginia with the rape. by the Rolling Stones reporterette. And turns out she ended up having a narrative and looked for something to use to fit it, and it turned out to be a fraud. And I can point to example after example of the same thing. And it's infested all of journalism. And all you have to do is look at their subscription rates, their viewer rates, and their stock prices. People are rejecting what they're saying. Now, I will tell all of you, because I've only got like 2 minutes left, what we do, camera, if you don't watch me going around, I have a camera with me all the time. I tell every single candidate, I tell politicians, I tell people of note, activists, always have a camera with you. Because, Jeff, you screwed up, didn't you? Very much so. Because if you had had a camera when you got quoted by CNN, you could have gone, see, look at this YouTube, Skip, put it up on Granite Grok. You know, at least we have the temerity, as it were. We'll put up everything today, only cutting it for shorter segments. We don't edit. But it'll be very interesting, because I noticed the lady reporter from the Daily Beast, as you were talking, he was scribbling really, really fast. I'm going to be your friend, because whatever we see in the Daily Beast from her, I'm going to put up the video. Excellent. This is what we have to do. There's a reason why Fox News is the leading cable news show or network in the country. You see, they discovered there was an unserved population, like 50% of Americans. And the rest of the journalistic world doesn't seem to understand this. Yes, you can be opinionated. And if you look at our sign at the back, New Hampshire's leading, fire-breathing, hard-charging, yada, 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 outspoken. Yeah, we are that. But we make, rabble-rousing, yes. But we make no bones about it. We are opinionated, we are conservative, and that's the way it is. We talk from constitutional values. Back to the narrative of journalism. Not so much relativism. It's what's all politically correct and how to bend the story that way. So that's my take on the state of journalism in the Fifth Estate. I'm surprised we didn't get a hook to get off the stage. Should we take questions? Do we have time?
Dan, do you want us to take questions?
Questions?
Okay, we have time for that. Excellent. So questions.
In the back. They're not. I'm a Blue Star dad twice over, and my sons use the VA. It is not getting better. I've been fortunate, so have they. For the ambulance that they have needed, it seems to work. But I know of a lot of cases it doesn't. Again, investigative journalism, really deep investigative journalism, no matter what media it is, seems to have disappeared.
Right. And you know what? But if you were a red-tailed raptor, you'd be all set. And that's the truth of the matter is that, once again, this sensationalism has really taken over in the easy part of journalism. It's not easy being journalist. I understand that. Do you know that the Hippocratic Oath is not said anymore? Are you aware of that? Most doctors now who come out are no longer required to recite that. Do you know that Columbia used to have their version of the Hippocratic Oath for journalists as well? And I think that's the other thing. We hold ourselves to a standard. We try to be honest all the time. I think that the media has to quickly learn that if they don't return themselves to a Hippocratic Oath and start talking about these stories that are truly important, that they will find themselves the way of the dodo. And the new media is easy for someone else to take over.
Jeff, if I heard you right, I think you said we ought to watch MSNBC.
Yeah, so,
I have the other, my feeling is really the other way, the opposite, is that why does any conservative ever watch MSNBC, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS,
Right.
or anything?
yeah, Don, really good point. Don's my CPAC buddy. We go down there. So let me answer that real quick. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I used to be a policeman, and I used to walk into the interrogation room. That's what we used to call it before we had to call it the interview room. I used to walk into the interview room, and I used to look at the person and say, I'm here to prove you innocent. That's what I said to them, and I got that exact expression, really. And so when you go in that with that kind of integrity to say, I'm here to prove you innocent, it's the same methodology for investigation as to prove them guilty. It's just that you're starting with that. I watch MSNBC with my computer to prove them right. That's what I say to myself. I'm listening to your story. I'm going to prove you right. And how often do you think I prove them right? Eventually, I don't, hardly any time. And what that experiment does, and this is why I recommend it to people, is it teaches you a discipline to talk intelligently where they have lacked that ability to talk intelligently. And the critical thinking is crucial. MSNBC doesn't care about Jeff Chittister in New Hampshire. They don't care. But the reality is that they should, because I flip on that switch every Saturday morning and point out a lot of the things that they get wrong. And welcome them to go ahead and do the same thing for me.
I often look at what's gone wrong in journalism, and I would look at the schools of journalism and also our high schools. In high school, you used to go to debates. It was required. Every week there was an assembly and there was a debate. So people learn to think on both sides of an issue, and that is what journalism is supposed to be all about. You're supposed to present the different sides and let the readers make up their own mind. So perhaps if our schools would get back to teaching debate, it would help. And then if we could encourage journalists to go into English and history and take some economics courses and not just major in journalism, this might be a start as well, because some of the better reporters are those who were not journalism majors.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What can we do about the censorship of the mainstream media? I mean, is it any wonder why Obama is so popular, Hillary Clinton? Because if you watch the mainstream media, they will not report anything that makes either, anybody on the left bad. I mean, it's at a state where it's almost as bad as being in a communist country.
Okay, the question was voluntary censorship by the mainstream media. Frankly, I know more about Hillary's Chipotle burrito than I do about her policies. And this is a primary example. So the media sitting in the back, these are the kinds of things that we really want to know. Forget what she had for lunch. It's unimportant. We as conservatives want to go to the meat of things. We've had Ted Cruz on. We talk nothing but Constitution and constitutional issues. Where do you stand on this policy? Where do you stand on that policy? Forget the chit-chat. Go for the important stuff. You might win some of us back. Now, I picked on the Daily Beast. There are some articles I have read that are very good. They are thumbs up. I'll say yes when it's well done. But a lot of times, like a lot of other places, there's a lot of clickbait out there. And if you don't know what that is, I'll tell you later. But there's a lot of things that it's superfluous. We are the celebrity culture, and I think our journalism is showing that side of itself. It's gone along. That's how they can keep some readership. We know more about celebrities out of Hollywood than we do a lot of other things.
And real quick before we get yanked off the stage, because I want to bring up a really good point.
But we're bigger than Diane is.
Please wrap up here. We have. The one good point I want to make is that yesterday they were reviewing the candidates that appeared on the stage over here, as a matter of fact. And one of the things that they brought up was that Chris Christie is going to have problems because of Bridgegate. Really? We got a candidate who wiped her server clean. And there's the problem. We need to start pushing the media to report the stories that are true and honest and are really concerning. Bridgegate, who cares? Benghazi, America does care about.
No, it's all right. I got 'em. Thank you. Yeah, I get 'em. Wow, what a great crew. Fabulous.
Croc TV.